Hello, I'm Jody. I'm one of the head coaches here at Healthy Life Balance, and I want to walk you through your calories, your macronutrients, how we're determining your ranges, and why. We believe in the power of education, and when you understand the what, the why, the how, you're more likely to implement it and create a lifestyle around it. So, with that being said, I want to make sure that you have a pen and paper, take notes, because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take this information and you're going to want to go over it on your next coaching call with your coach to make sure that your ranges are set up correctly and that any additional questions are being answered. Again, our goal is to empower you through this health and fitness journey so that the end goal is that you honestly don't need us anymore. And so with that being said, we're going to kind of dive into this overall client tracker that we have set up. Now, everybody in the program has one of these trackers whether you guys have seen it or not, we are using it on the back end to make sure everything is in alignment for your goals. I will probably do a separate video later breaking down how to actually use this, because right now you're probably looking at this and being like, what do all those numbers mean? It feels a little overwhelming, and I want you to take a step back and don't feel overwhelmed. We got this. But again, I want to walk you through why we're calculating things the way that we are. So to kind of start, we have all of your starting metrics here. Okay. And when I say starting metrics, we're really concerned, we're wanting the data of your starting weight, your height in inches or in centimeters if you are outside of the United States, your age, and the fact that you're a female. Having your body fat, that's not really a requirement to set up these ranges. However, it is really great to know. And I encourage you that if you don't have a way to test your body fat, that you either go to a local gym or you reach out to your coach. We actually have a really great scale that you can just have at home that will actually monitor all of your stats. As long as we're just using a tool to keep track of all of your data consistently, it doesn't really matter what way you go about it. However, again, it's nice not to just rely on the scale, because at the end of the day, that is just a tool and it's not the end all be all for what we are needing. Now, to set up your ranges, that data is needed. So with that being in mind, I have actually put in my personal stats as an example. So currently I'm 145, I'm 5'6", and I'm 35 years old and about 19% body fat. So with that data, we're going to navigate over to this client dashboard and I'm going to walk you through how to set up your ranges. Now, in order to determine what your ranges are, whether you are going to be in a calorie deficit, a calorie maintenance mode, or even a surplus, this is where we start. Now, each goal has its own benefits, and some of you actually might find that you navigate between a deficit, maintenance, and surplus, or you just kind of go into a deficit, maintenance. Some clients actually have to go up into a surplus and then go down to maintenance. And so again, it's just really dependent on what your overall aesthetic and lifestyle goals are. Now, for this particular example, I'm going to place myself in a deficit because let's say that I actually want to lean out a little bit more. And when I say lean out, I'm actually not really I'm not really concerned about the number on the scale. I'm working towards more of dropping my body fat closer to about 17%. So if that's my goal, then I need to place myself in a slight calorie deficit. Now, here we go. All right. So to kind of determine that, you see we have these numbers here. We have what we call your BMR. Now, if you're familiar with your BMR, fabulous. I'm just going to do a really quick recap. If you're not, listen in, because this number is really important and most people overlook this number when they're placing themselves into a deficit. So your BMR is your basal metabolic rate. This is the number of calories your body needs to accomplish most of just life-sustaining activities. Breathing, circulation, cell production, nutrient processing, and temperature regulation. You can kind of think of it as your house, and that it just basically keeps the lights on. It doesn't do anything extra. It doesn't heat your house, cool it down, any of the extra fancy stuff. It just keeps the lights on in your house. Now, everybody has a BMR. You can see here that we have starting, current, and at goal. The reason why I have these three listed is because I feel like it's very important for women to understand where their BMR is at currently and how it shifts when they get to their goal. Because usually what happens when we go into a deficit, especially if you have the experience of extreme dieting, meaning you've dropped your calories really low, or you don't eat a whole lot and then you find yourself binge eating, or you just find yourself actually really tired and you don't understand why, then listen up. So my current basal metabolic rate is 14 30. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of round down a little bit. Now, again, what this means is it just keeps the lights on in my house. If I were to break both of my legs and I had to lay in bed all day long based off of my stats, my body still needs around 1,430 calories just to maintain the healthy organ function and keep things moving. Why this is important is because as you are in a deficit, a lot of the times people will go really extreme, and maybe let's say you place yourself right at 1,400 calories. Well, if I were to do that, well, guess now, I don't have any wiggle room. I might see progress, but all of a sudden I'm going to plateau. And then from there, now I'm kind of like, oh crap, I'm going to have to go below my BMR to continue this process. And we don't want to do that. Our goal is to keep your food as high as we can for as long as we can without ever going below your BMR, and really kind of avoid even getting close to it, because there's more that we're taking into account when it comes to your hormones, your blood sugar regulation, your energy, how you're sleeping. There's so much that goes into it. And the closer we get to your BMR, or when we dip below it, we actually sacrifice your health. So this is to show you that we as your coaches will never place you right at your BMR or directly below it. We do not sacrifice your overall health and wellness for super quick results. Now, the reason why this number is really good to know as well when you're at your goal is because, again, I want to show you that, like, if I were to drop, closer to 17% body fat, my BMR changes by 20 calories. That means that I don't have to ever go below this in order to really achieve my goal. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, light bulb moment, I'm so happy for you. You can take a big breath and be like, cool, now I don't have anxiety around a deficit. Whereas the majority of women that I've worked with in the past, they have a lot of anxiety because they're just used to cutting food and increasing their cardio. And guess what? That leads to depletion and burnout. And we don't want to do that. So we want to keep your energy high, your sleep good, your hormones regulated, all the things. And so this is why your BMR is so important to understand. So on your next coaching call, make sure you go over that with your coach so you really understand where your current BMR is and what that looks like when you're at your goal. You will find that it's not that much of a difference. Now, the second thing that's really important to know is your TDEE. This is also referred to as your maintenance calorie range. So this is the total number of calories your body burns each day, considering all of your activities. So this includes exercising, this includes work, just includes your daily routines, like if you're doing laundry, if you're going on walks, like there is an extra amount of calories that we have to add back into your daily intake to make sure that you are having proper hormones, sleep, again, everything that I just kind of touched on. So with that being said, we have to calculate for not only your intentional movement, which is the amount of days that you are agreeing and committing to exercise, and just your normal day-to-day activity. So you can see here that we have this weekly movement commitment. I've already calculated in the extra calories that your body needs just for the day-to-day movement. But again, we now have to add in a little bit more based on your weekly commitment. So if we drop down here, you'll see we have 0, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let's say that you are injured, you're not able to exercise, so we're going to click 0. I want you to see that your maintenance calorie range, or technically mine, would be close to about 1,700 calories, okay? So if I wanted to maintain my weight at 145 pounds, which is where I'm at currently, I could eat around 1,700 calories a day, not moving, meaning not going to the gym or working out, not having any intentional movement, and I would maintain. Now, since my goal is to drop, 2 to 3% body fat, I will need to place myself in a slight deficit. Now here, this is where I choose my weekly commitment, and for me, I'm going to choose 5 days a week. Now you can see that my current maintenance and calorie range just jumped up. It's about 2150. So with that being said, now I'm like, okay, I know my BMR, I know my base, and I know my higher range. And now from here, we have numbers to play with. And I like to coach in ranges, not just a strict number. Because let's be honest, and I want you to be very vulnerable and honest, how many times were you given a calorie range and you're like, okay, I can stick to it, and you do probably really good for a week, and then you go out to dinner, or an event happens, and then you bring your calories clear up, or you just fall off and you don't really track it anymore, and then you're kind of like, oh my gosh, What's wrong with me? When in reality, nothing is wrong with you. And when you understand the ranges, you understand that you can kind of go up to your maintenance calorie, maybe on quote unquote bad days. And I don't even like that term bad days, but let's say that you do have a day where you're just like really hungry, you're feeling maybe even a little bit emotional. Well, on those days, I actually bring my calories back up to more of a maintenance range, knowing that I'm totally okay and still in alignment with my goals. But when you understand the what, the why, the how around these ranges, then you get to be in control and be creative about this process, and it makes it a lot more fun and enjoyable, and that's how the lifestyle is created. So with that being said, my current maintenance calorie range is about 2,150. You'll also notice at my goal, again, it doesn't shift that much. My maintenance calorie is still around 2,115. Now, there is a little discrepancy here. I want to also make note that nothing is ever black and white. There is a little bit of a gray area. The more muscle you have, the more effective your body works and better your metabolism is. And so even though on paper my maintenance calorie range is showing this, technically, I'm actually a little bit higher. I'm closer to around 22 to 2,300 calories for my maintenance range because I've added around 10 to 15 pounds of muscle throughout the year. And so my body just automatically burns more at rest. I'm not going to dive too much more into that in this video. That can be for a separate video. But I just wanted to remind you quickly that not everything is in black and white. And that is one reason we actually encourage you to track for these few weeks so that we understand where your body's at within the ranges that we're giving you. So with that being said, just a very quick overview again. If I were to bring my weekly commitment down to 3, you can see that again, my calories shift. And so again, working with these ranges is only going to help you reach and sustain your goal so much faster. So now that we've gone over your BMR, your TDEE, let's quickly go over your goal adjustments. Now, let's say again that my goal is I want to be in a slight deficit. Well, depending on like how fast I want this process to be, I reverse engineer. Now, this is something that you will do with your coach. I'm not going to spend a ton of time in this video walking you through that process because I want that to be done, again, with your coach in person so you really understand where you need to be. But typically to lose, like let's say about a full pound a week, you're going to want to be in about a 500 calorie deficit. Well, that's not really my goal. I would rather have it be a little bit longer and maybe lose closer to about half a pound a week. That way my food stays higher and I'm okay with that process. But again, when you understand the what, the why, the how on how all this is unfolding, then there's no anxiety of like, why am I not progressing? Why is this not working? Because we actually have it set up in a way that is very achievable, very maintainable process. And so you're more to just be okay with how things are going. And I will also say that's the mindset portion is when you can have that type of energy around your goals, you're more likely to hit your goals faster because there's no resistance around it. So again, knowledge is power. Now, let's say that I wanted to put myself in about a 250 calorie deficit. I would probably start my calories closer to around 1,700 then. And then these are where I can play with my ranges. Now, for women that are going through premenopause, postmenopause, or full-on menopause, we do want to have your carbs be a little bit lower because that's going to help with your blood sugar regulation. And I want you to make sure that you refer back to that video series that Sarah did is because that's really going to dive into the what, the why, the how on why blood sugar regulation is so important in your process. So for me, I would probably drop my carbs just a little bit lower, bring up my fats, and then I'm gonna probably keep my protein actually a little bit higher. Now, this is the beauty of you doing this with your coach, again, so you understand your overall ranges. Now, this gives me a pretty good idea of where I'm at, but I want you to know over here that we have, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit, we have protein ranges. Now, your body, the minimum amount your body needs is 0.8 grams per pound of ideal body weight. So for me, that's about 112 grams. And it will digest all the way up to 1.2, which is close to about 170. The reason why these ranges are good to note is because I actually, for example, I'm currently on my cycle, and in order for me to actually stay on track with what I'm doing, I know for me personally, I typically bring my protein down a little bit and up my carbs. And that's because your body, while you're on your cycle, actually burns more at rest. And so that's why you feel a lot hungrier. And I know that I'm still in my ranges, even though I brought my protein down on the lower end. Now, more consistently, I balance between 1 to 1.2 grams per pound of ideal body weight. Now, it is suggested that for 30 and above, you actually added an additional percent per year because your body starts metabolizing it differently. So I do like to start everyone out closer to this middle range and work up towards this. However, I also know that sometimes hitting your protein can feel a little daunting. And so if that's the case, knowing your bottom range is still a great way to start, and that we can work up to these higher ranges. So currently right now, I actually eat about 160 grams of protein, except for the week that I'm on my cycle, and then I bring it down and I do a little carb cycling along with cycle syncing, and it works really well for my body. Now, everybody is different, and again, that's why you're here, to have that one-on-one guidance to figure out what works best for you. So with that being said, let me zoom out just a little bit. That is how we determine what your ranges are. Every month we will readjust your plan and we will set these ranges for where you need to be. We'll monitor it and then we make adjustments. Always include 25 to 35 grams of fiber in your diet. So while your macros are your proteins, fats, and carbs, I do want to emphasize of getting enough fiber in your diet as well. That's again something that you can go over with your coach. But overall, this is just a brief introduction of why we set your ranges, where they're at, what your BMR is, why it's important, what your maintenance calorie range, why that is important, and how to adjust the numbers for your personal goals and your lifestyle. I hope this was helpful. Please take any notes that you have to your next coaching call, and we will make sure that your ranges are setting you up for lifetime success. Thank you.